sampling plays an essential part in ensuring that whatever sample you draw actually represents the population on which you are going to generalize. So such self-medication medical students, it's typically among medical students, hence the sampling is accurate, right? They have given it to you who are medical students. So if that is being, if the question was, what is the self-medication practices among students, among college students or graduate students in Bengal? If that was the question, and sample, you being the sample, that would have disrupted the entire research process, because you just as medical students does not represent the entire fraternity of all students of Bengal, right? So sampling needs to be done tactfully. So what are the types of sampling? We'll take a look at them. So there are two types of sampling, right? First is the probability sampling or the random sampling. So why random or why probability? Because we leave it to chance. So this is a table entirely focused on all the types of probability sampling. So please remember these very carefully. These are your theory question exams. Sampling is a very fertile area for your MCQs in your NEET PG, right? Very important and very scoring, okay? So simple random sampling. Simple random sampling is if you have, let's say, just a moment. Hello? Hello? Am I audible? Can you hear me? Someone can say hello or something.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There is some issue with my connection, I guess. Yeah. So simple random sampling as we started. So why this random? Because everyone has a random chance of getting into the sample. So if we are talking about, let's say, we'll take from the population of 100, let's say football players, right? From 100 football players, we are going to select a sample of 10 football players. So we can just randomly select 1, then 6. We'll number them first, then randomly select 1, then 6, then 8, then 21, then 31, like this. So this can be done through two methods. Your first method being, so simple random sampling, we call it SRS. So if you have multiple people and you randomly select these numbers and you draw them. So from this, 2, 5, 9 becomes your sample. If you have to draw 3 out of 10 people, all right, this is done randomly. It can be done through two things. One is a random number generator, which is very easy these days. You can just put it in Google or in your chat GPT and it just gives you a random number table. But previously we used to have, in statistic books, if you see the old books, you used to see those huge random number tables with lots of figures and everything. Your generation do not need that table, thankfully. And the second system is a lottery method. So what you do is take out your money, your currency note, and based on that currency note, you select a random number and you can go ahead. That's a lottery method, right? So simple random sampling is basically if you have to select like 10 out of 100, you randomly select based on a random number generator. You can just type in your chat GPT that I need give me 7 random numbers between 1 to 100, and it will give you just random numbers. You can use it. Fine. So that's simple random sampling. The best part is every individual has an equal chance. You don't know which one you are picking up, right? and it requires one thing, that you need the entire list of population. You can't do that in case of, let's say, all hypertensives of India, because that list of population wouldn't be with you in, most likely, until and unless you are probably someone from the ministry. You're not going to get that list ever, right? So that's the best. Simple random sampling is the best uh, sampling method, but all the time it cannot be done. So what other methods are there? The next is systematic sampling. I'll come to the details of each, but just explaining you the thoughts of it. So what systematic sampling does is, it selects every kth unit. So let's say, I'll show you the picture. Yeah, this is simple random sampling, just randomly selecting people from the population. Cool? Good with you? Yeah. Systematic sampling is this one. So you have 11 people. From that 11 people, you need to draw out a sample of 4. So you fix a starting point, that I'll start with number 2. And then you select a value that is usually depicted by K. You select a value, and that value, if in this case it's 3, so every third person will be selected, right? So from 2, fifth person selected, 8th, and the 11th one. So it's a systematic. There is some sort of order in this randomness, right? So every third person gets selected. Every third person is selected. So that's systematic random sampling for you. Next is stratified random sampling. So what, as I told you earlier, that community medicine, a lot of things is about understanding the English. So what is a strata? What is a strata to you?
Dividing the population according to characteristics.
Exactly. According to certain specific characteristics, you strata is stratified, right? Stratum. Stratum is the word for in Latin for layer, right? So strata is dividing the population into certain layers. So if you can see this, so if you are um, doing a certain study, let's say, on healthcare workers, right? So there are a lot of healthcare workers in your hospital, starting from the doctors, the nurses, your supporting GDAs, the cleaners, and even those who scavenge, right? So they all are within the boundaries of health. Even the ambulance drivers, they are part of your healthcare ecosystem. So if you are doing a study on healthcare workers and you want to find out that, let's say during the COVID period, so how kind of healthcare worker was. So if that's what you are trying to find out, then you will have to stratify. So these are the group of doctors, these are the group of nurses, these are the group of GDAs, and these are the group of, let's say, ambulance drivers. And from that, you pick your random selection, and let's say you selected from every group, you selected 4. So that becomes your stratified random sampling. This ensures that every group is represented, right? So the weight is not tilted in favor of doctors. So if you are to select a sample of 12 from a population of, let's say, 50, so if you are taking 25 doctors in this, that doesn't represent your sample well. So for proper representation, such kind of certification is there. So healthcare worker is one such example. I'm telling you certain particular keywords that you need to pick out during your MCQ tests, right? So if there is certain references to healthcare workers, to Hindu Muslim population, male female gender population, if these are the words that you see, then please start finding stratified random sampling other cues for that answer. Got it? 10, your sample size is 10. you need to get the sample from that population of 100, then you will think about stratified random sampling. Rural, urban, this kind of, I'll just write it down. So the various types of healthcare workers, rural, urban population, based on your religion, right? Based on your gender. So these are the keywords that you would pick out during your MCQ test. All right. Rest of you, is Pallab there today? Okay. Next is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is the population is divided into certain groups or clusters, right? So you randomly select the clusters. So why cluster sampling is so important, so very well established, is because something called the WHO 30 cluster sampling. Have anyone heard of this? Abhishek?
No, sir.
WHO 30 cluster technique. So what it does is, it is done to find out the immunization coverage. So in your area, if I ask you, what is the coverage of DPT vaccine in your area? Abhishek? Yes, Abhishek, I'm asking you. So if I'm to ask you that what is the coverage of DPT vaccine in your area, where do you stay? You stay in Murshidabad?
No, sir. I say in Kolkata.
Okay. So if you are asked that Kolkata has 144 wards, so what is the immunization coverage of children in Kolkata? If you are to explore, so what would you do?
So I check the records of the hospital records, to be more precise.
So you will check the hospital records of all the hospitals in Kolkata.
That is impossible.
That is how you are going to find out. It's not physically, humanly possible, right?
Yes, sir.
And nowhere you are going to get all the data logged into one beautiful Excel sheet. You are not going to get that.
Yes, sir.
So how do you find out? So what WHO did was, they devised a method. So for an entire population, they will divide into clusters of 30, uh, 30 families, right? And they will select 7 such clusters in a area. So if this is the entire, let's say, a locality, a ward. You know what's a ward? Ward is a basic unit of governance, right?
Yes, sir.
Municipal governance. Akanksha, you are familiar with the term ward?
Yes, sir.
Right. So in one ward, they will select 30 such clusters. Based on the road, the geography, they will select 30 such clusters. And in these clusters, they will individually check out 7 families. Right. And 7 families with a kid less than 5 years. Okay. And every kid will be studied in terms of all the vaccinations that they are to receive. So at birth, at 6 weeks, at 10 weeks, at 14 weeks, they will check if all the vaccination record is complete, right? And if that vaccination record is incomplete, let's say, what is the expected vaccination rate for the herd immunity to stay? What's a good vaccination coverage rate?
80 to 95%.
Right, around 90% is your, typically if you are asked 1, so So 90% immunization coverage is required. So what WHO does is checks if all the 7, like it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the children will be checked, they will be ticked, and let's say if the 4th individual hasn't been vaccinated at all, 5th hasn't been vaccinated at all, 6th hasn't been vaccinated at all, so the percentage comes down, and what it does is you have to revaccinate the entire area. You have to check for all the records, and then they will go for all the drives and the campaigns that will go on. But to study all the areas is not possible. Hence, you select clusters and you study those clusters individually, right? So you will define the population, that less than 5-year population in ward number, let's say 121. Then you cluster the population, let's say 1 in locality 1, 1 in locality 2, and 1 in locality 3, and then randomly select the clusters. And when you have selected the clusters, you will study the entire cluster and find out whatever your research question is, right? So cluster sampling is clear. So what did we do till now? Simple random sampling. Next is
Systematic sampling.
systematic random sampling. Everything is random, okay? Systematic random sampling. That is
Stratified random sampling.
stratified random sampling, and lastly
Cluster sampling.
cluster sampling. Excellent. So now we get to a more difficult aspect of it, but you should know that you have heard of NFHS. You had a class, madam had taught NFHS, right? So what NFHS does is it surveys all the states, right? But it samples. It cannot. I mean, how NFHS is different from the census. Just a second now. Just a second, bear with me. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'll be just back. Can you all hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah. So multi-state sampling is, so you select certain districts of India, right? So you basically select certain district. If these are your district 1, district 2, district 3, and from these districts you select individual villages, right? Each village, and from this village you select, if this is one village, you select certain families, and from these families you select individuals. So it's multi-stage. So first is your district, then is your village, then is your household, then is your individuals. So every stage you are being sampled, right? So this is called multi-stage sampling, and what it does is it allows us to reach out to a huge population at once. So bigger surveys, NFHS, the district health survey, these are kind of done in these ways. The sampling is done in these ways, right? Next comes the